continuing a 30-foot wide fixed end wall with 2 sliding doors and a peak vent. We've completed everything that we can assemble on the ground. What we did is we built this panel as one large panel, making sure we squared all of our corners, and we repeated the process on the other side. We made sure that the door opening was at a right angle on both sides of the door, and that the width at the top of the door matched the width at the bottom of the door. There are a couple pieces that we're going to wait to install until after we put the hoop up. Those include the horizontal pieces on the bottom. So there's a horizontal piece right here that's going to be 4 feet off the ground, and its telescoping end, that'll get installed after the hoop is up. We'll also install the telescoping end for the bottom horizontal stud after it's up. There's a couple locations where, to get everything square, not all of the pieces went all the way down on the pegs, and that's totally fine. After the whole end wall was in place, we went ahead and installed the peak vent. Depending on how many people you have or what sort of equipment you have to lift something that's this heavy, there are different approaches you can use on how to put it up. You could wait on the peak vent and put it up after the entire end wall is up. If you have very few people, you might just want to build this half as one piece, that half as another piece, the hoop top independently, put your hoop up, and then install your end wall into your hoop. The other thing that we've done is installed our purlin ends. So just like when we built our trusses, we marked where our purlins go. This is the purlin ends. This will stick out. On our first end wall, these are going to get permanently installed. The second end wall that we do, we're going to bolt them in place, but then they'll get removed in order to add the last purlin. We measured the center of the ridge hoop, and that's where this purlin went. And then we put our roof purlin over here where we did our previous measurement. In this case, from the end of the hoop up to this point was 76 inches. This particular tunnel does not have a truss kit. If it did have a truss kit, there'd also be a collar tie purlin. So there'd be another purlin end that'd be coming up from the horizontal stud. That would need to be installed before the vent got attached to the horizontal stud, so you can get in there from the back with a self-tapping screw. The other thing that we've decided to wait on is our door track. The door track has brackets that come on it. We can put that door track on now. We've decided not to because the weight of the tunnel, but you can always, if you want to put the door track on, you're also going to want to install the door track before the peak vent for the same reason of being able to screw it in from the top. What we're going to do with the door track is we're going to go ahead and put the entire hoop assembly up, and then we'll put the door track on afterwards by just removing a couple screws, swinging the vent out of the way, and putting the screws back in. In our application, we have enough people who will be able to lift this as one big wall, but we will be taking the peak vent out and then reinstalling that afterwards for 2 reasons. 1, to not damage the polycarbonate, and 2 is to slightly decrease the weight. When we put this up, we are going to put it up as a big piece. We're going to make sure that there's no dirt or anything in the ends of our hoops. We'll tilt it up, and then we'll go ahead and set it on top of our sidewall hoops. We're working on the second end wall of the 30-foot wide fixed tunnels with the 2 4x8 sliders and the peak vent. The second one, we do have a couple things that we build differently. One of the main differences is the purlin ends. When we put the purlin ends, we're not securing these permanently in place. These will come back off again, because when we put the purlins in, we start on one end. It was the first end wall we built. We go to the second end wall. Then we use this purlin end to measure the purlin to cut to fit. It comes off and then comes back up. So these are just temporarily put in, but we have marked where they go in all the right locations. The other thing we did in this end wall is when we moved the first end wall, it was easier to move with the peak vent out. So before we even installed the peak vent frame, we went ahead and took the peak vent out. So right now we have the whole entire end wall built. We made sure all of our right angles were correct. All of our lines were straight. We ensured that the opening for our door, the width on the top and on the bottom is the same. We ensured that the bottom of the end wall up to the bottom of the hoop is 63 inches to make sure that the bottom of the end wall and the hoop will end up being parallel to the ground. We used the same strings that we did from before in our previous template. Now that the entire end wall is complete, we measured in between the end wall and the hoops on both sides to make sure that's correct right to left. Again, our 63 inches from the bottom, make sure we're correct up and down. So we know that the end wall is in the right place. Now that the end wall is in the right place, the hoop's in the right place inside of the jig, we're now going to attach everything together. We'll telescope the ends up to brace bands, bolt those together, put self-tapping screws in the telescoping ends. After all the vertical studs are attached to the hoop, we'll take the peak vent, we'll go ahead and we've already put the end brackets into the peak vent frame. We'll bolt the brace bands to the peak vent frame. Once it's centered and we like where it is, we'll telescope the ends of the bottom of the peak vent down. Then we'll screw those into this header, and then we'll be able to move this end wall out of the way and get ready to put them up into the structure. What we've done here is we've put the whole end wall up while we were building our hoops. So now, once the hoops are in place, the end wall is basically in place. So what I want to do is now talk about how to secure that end wall to the structure. After we put it up, everything above the seam between the sidewall hoop and the roof hoop was already installed. But we had to install the telescoping ends that attach the sidewall hoop. This one about 4 feet off the ground, and the one at the bottom right at ground level. So once we put this up, we had to make sure a couple things were the case. We measured the width between the top of our doors and the width between the bottom of our doors to ensure that both of these walls are equidistant on the top and on the bottom, and they're both plumb. Once we made sure that we had it exactly where we wanted it, we then secured these telescoping ends. We put the telescoping end into a brace band, tightened the brace band bolt first, did it for both the forefoot and right in the bottom. Once they were exactly where we wanted, we made sure that our walls were plumb and equidistant on the top and the bottom. We then put self-tapping screws into the telescoping ends to lock it in place. We made sure not to put any screws on this outer surface because this will get sheeted with polycarbonate and that would end up getting in the way. We secured it on both these sides and we did it on the other side. Now that that's in place, the next step is going to be to secure the bottom of the end wall. So right now it's just hanging free, and what we can do is we're going to put the 3-foot ground posts in on the back of the end wall. They're just a 3-foot, 1 3/8 inch pipe, and we're going to put them in with a ground stake driver. We're going to put one right here by the corner, and we're going to put one further down over here. We'll secure them to the bottom of the end wall with pipe straps. After the bottom of our end wall is secured into place, we're going to put in our door tracks, which are going to go on the inside of the tunnel. We'll put our door tracks in, we'll screw it down to the top of this thing right here, top of the header, and then we'll put our sliding doors in place with adjustable rollers. So now that our end wall is up, we've secured it to our hoops, and then the next thing is to do is to anchor the end wall, install the track, and install the doors. We just finished this metal end wall for a 30-foot fixed tunnel with 2 4x8 sliding doors and a butterfly peak vent. First, we're going to talk about how to skin it with polycarbonate. There's a couple different aluminum extrusions we're going to use for polycarbonate. We're going to use single H channel, which looks like a lowercase h, and that takes the edges of the polycarbonate. Then we've got double H channel, which looks like a capital H, which takes 2 pieces of polycarbonate and seams them together. On the top edges and on the far edges, we're going to use flashing, and then on top of the flashing, we've got single plastic attachment channel. To start, we started with our single H channel on the 2 far sides of the door. We ran the single H channel from the ground all the way up to the peak. We didn't quite have enough because they come in 12-foot sections. We needed to go taller, so we just seamed them together with another single H piece. Then we lined up with our vertical stud and we put our double H channel for where the seam of the 2 polycarbonate sheets is going to go. When we trim our sheets, what I like to do is I like to put our factory edge into the first piece and put our next piece, or in this case the double H channel, on the ground, and then put the double H channel and the sheet up as one piece. After we have that together, we put our double H channel on our next vertical stud. We cut our sheet to fit, put our factory edge in the previous one, and then assembled that as a piece. And then on the far side, we trimmed it both height and lengthwise to put it in. When we first put up the sheets, we go ahead and we run them long up, right? Once they're in, we'll go ahead and we'll trim them. Once we had them all the way in, we used a jigsaw with an aluminum blade in it, and we went along and we trimmed both the top edge of the polycarbonate and the single and double H channel at the same time. Another important thing about polycarbonate is some of the tape that it's used. On the bottom edge is a white porous tape called vent tape that allows the water to drain out of the bottom edge of the polycarbonate but stops bugs from getting in. On the top edge of the polycarbonate, we put aluminum tape all the way along the top edge to seal the top and not allow any water to get inside of it. We had to make sure that we put that tape on the top before we put our flashing on. We use different length screws depending on what we're screwing through. On our single H channel, on the flange on the side, we just use 1 inch, number 12 by 1 inch self-tapping screws. Everywhere where we go straight through the polycarbonate, we wanted to make sure we didn't suck the screw heads through the polycarbonate, so we use 1.5 inch, number 12 self-tapping screw with a neoprene washer. We tried to put them about 1 foot apart. Everywhere we go through our double H channel, we needed to use 1.5 inch self-tapping screws as well. As far as the height of where the polycarbonate started, since this has sliding doors on the inside, and when we staked the bottom of the ground posts in for the end wall, our ground posts were driven in on the outside. So what we did is we took our polycarbonate and we butted it up on the top of our ground post anchors, and that was where we started the sheets. We made sure to put self-tapping screws in the bottom, all the horizontal studs, and all the vertical studs. After we completed the two sides, we then came back and started working our way in. Instead of using a double H channel for the seams right here, because we had this long sheet, we used a single H channel, and we put another single H channel on top of it, and that allowed us to put the two seams together. Put a single H channel on the other side, and then other single H channels for the little pieces that go around here, with a double H channel in between them. On the peak of the vent, we put a double H channel, a single H channel where we butted the two pieces up, and over here we used two single H channels as well. We had to make sure that we cut a little notch on this piece because this tunnel had a ridge vent on the top, and then we repeated the process on the other side. The doors came with polycarbonate on them, so did the vents, so we had to hang our sliding doors and then hang our butterfly vent. The butterfly vent attaches with pivot bolts in the center, and then we've got ropes on the inside and the outside. There's pivot bolts that are above center so that the weight of the vent wants to have it naturally close. We've got an eye bolt on the bottom that faces into the structure and an eye bolt on the top that faces out. Then we've got rope cleats that we mounted to the vertical frames on the inside and the outside of the structure. That way we can just crack the vent, or we can adjust it however we need it. If we want to close the vent or we have any severe weather coming, what we can do is there's bolts that will bolt the vents shut. So in severe weather we can go ahead and we can bolt those vents shut. Now that we've done all that, this is a completed end wall and a nice example of what a 30-foot wide movable 30-foot wide fixed end wall looks like.